Welcome to Jamila's channel. I'll be your host for today's events. I go by the name Dreamscape Williams, and today we're going to do a little story time. You know, I've known this young lady for quite some time. We've had a few events in our lifetime, but none take the cake more so than when we went to Universal Studios for Horror Nights, of course. Horror Nights. You know, I just have to tell you, going under the influence is probably the best of times. Yeah, I would say the best of times. But sometimes it can be your worst enemy too. This particular time, I'll never forget. The day started, we got our tickets. Well, she had the tickets, obviously. I went to a shop. She said she wanted to try edibles. I don't usually do edibles. I am a vapors, flower kind of guy. So I said, what the hell, why not? Went to buy some Cordova chocolates, 20 milligrams, which is extremely strong. 1 bar for us to share. I bought it. As we're getting ready to go, we're going to FedEx office to go and pick up the tickets. She's the driver, mind you. I'm like, okay, everything's cool. She's like, yeah. She's like, can I have the chocolate? I'm like, sure. Before she goes in, I'm not paying attention because I think she's gonna, take a small dose like we discussed. I'd said prior, take a small bite. You do not do edibles. This is a very strong bar. When she took that, I think I said small bite, I think she misunderstood me because when I looked back, she had taken half of it, and I said, oh no. Did you eat the whole thing already? She said, yeah, why? I said, Jamila, that is a 20 milligram dose. That'll stop an elephant. Not to be serious, but it'll stop anybody, like any strong stoner, I would say. It would knock you out right there. So she took it, not knowing anything of the sort. We are on our way to FedEx office, like I said, going to pick up the tickets. Driving, she's fine. I notice this. She gets out of the car when she parks. She parks slightly crooked, which she might do, or anybody would normally, but it was a little bit more crooked than usual. So she walked in. She came out. She had the tickets, but then she started saying she felt funny. She's like, I can't drive. I can't drive. You have to drive. You have to drive. I'm like, is it happening? She's like, I think so. Oh my God. I'm like, hey, calm down. You're going to be fine. She's like, okay, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. She gets in. It kicks in so strong, I want to say, audience, that she couldn't do anything really. But I'm not noticing anything. So she's like, you drive. I'm like, okay, I'm going to drive. Are you okay? Do you still want to go? Do we need to stop? Or she's like, no, I'm fine. We could do this. I was like, okay. So I'm not thinking anything of the sort. Mind you, like I said earlier, I said I smoke. I use flower. I prefer flower. I had rolled myself, a couple joints for later, or not thinking anything of the sort. We're driving. She says she needs some fresh air. As she rolls down the window, I'm not thinking anything of the sort. I notice out of the corner of my eye, she throws maybe 1 or 2 things out the window, and I'm thinking, oh, she's just throwing trash away. And then she rolls the window back up, and she's like, I feel better. And the window, it's at an even pace. We get there. I have to help her walk to get in. We get in there. We go to certain events. Nothing's really starting. She's like, I'm hungry. I'm like, really? You sure? She's like, yeah. So I end up going. I'm like, what do you want? We get into the Simpsons Quickie Mart area. She gets one of those big ass donuts. And when I say big, I mean those like donuts that aren't real, like you would normally eat on a normal day, and you eat some of it. It's like a cake, right? So I'm not thinking anything of the sort. We get in. She gets out of there. She ends up sitting down and proceeds to tear into the entire thing and just continues to eat the whole thing. These 2 kids come by and it's like, damn, she's hungry. I'm like, yeah, man, the edible's kicking in. She wasn't talking. She was quiet. She'd just be like, yes, no, I'm like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, everything's fine. Fine. Just staring off into space. But following me, and sometimes walking far further than me. So we end up, after she finishes eating that, we're going through mazes. I am basically more worried about her than the mazes. So I'm, I get scared, but I'm not scared. And she's going through them like a champ. We get through to the tunnel where it's all the lights going on and off, all different colors, and you see monsters coming out and stuff. All of a sudden, it's like maybe like 30 feet down the tunnel. I can see one just right in the same wavelength of us, looking at everybody. Then he stops, turns to us. Then the lights go up. They come back on. I don't see him. The lights go out. They come back on. He's getting closer. The lights go out again. And they go out for a long period of time. And I'm just trying to hold Jamila, and she's just not doing anything. Just looking at the lights like nothing. Lights come back on. He's right there in front of us like this. And I was like, oh my God. Oh. Didn't faze her one bit. Mind you, she's always scared of these things. Or gets, didn't jump, didn't flinch not once. He went like this again. She just looked at him like, and blinked like a cartoon character when they do that noise when they blink. He looked at me like, and got out of character, was like, something wrong. I just went, he said, and then proceeded to go off and try to scare somebody else. After we get out of that maze, she ends up like, oh my God. Somehow we get out of the maze. I turn around. I'm like, okay, let's go have this seat or something somewhere. I turn around. One instant, she's gone. So I'm panicking. Like, where did she go? Where did she go? I'm turning around, trying to find her everywhere. I go near the food section. She is sitting at the bench, just relaxing, just taking deep breaths and just looking into the stars. I'm like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I just need to take a break. My feet hurt. I was like, okay, understandable. Like, you didn't tell me, you just wandered off. She's like, yeah, I figured you'd find me. I was like, no, it doesn't work like that. I'm just glad I found you. Thank goodness. How are you feeling? She's like, I'm okay. A little hungry now. We get through some other mazes. Nothing scares her. So we get down towards Panda Express. Somehow she gets hungry and decides that she wants to eat that. Ladies and gentlemen, she hates Panda Express. She doesn't eat it. She looks at me with an evil eye every time I would consider getting it or have considered getting it. I'm not understanding what's going on. So I say, are you sure? She's like, yeah. And proceeds to get a decent plate of stuff that she wouldn't eat. And she tears it up like, this is so good. It's just delicious with a smile on her face. And I'm like, I'm being punked, right? This is a joke. And finishes it. And she's like, that was good. How was yours? I was like, I didn't get anything because I thought you were kidding. So I ended up walking with her. We go. As we're leaving, she gets hungry again, ladies and gentlemen. So we go to Saddleback Ranch before it closed, right there at Universal. We sit there, and I'm like, you're not hungry. You can't be sure. She's like, yeah. And she orders the monster platter, ladies and gentlemen, for herself. I didn't order anything. I was just in shock. Ordered the monster platter. And then as we're waiting and proceeds to, as it proceeds to keep going, because we've been there for some hours, it suddenly wears off right when the platter gets there, like in front of her. I'm like, you can't be serious. She's like, where am I? What are we doing here? Why are we eating? I was like, didn't I already eat? I was like, you don't know what you ate? She's like, no, what happened? I'm like, oh. A lot's happened. She's like, well, can you tell him to take this back? Because I don't want this. I was like, you ate half of it. You don't want it? I've kind of helped you eat some of this. We have to kind of like finish. She's like, no, tell him I don't want it. So, called him back. She proceeds to say that she didn't want this. It was a misunderstanding. And then somehow she gets her money back and we leave. Now, remember earlier in the story, as I said, when we were driving, she threw something out the window. So I had rolled some joints, some papers, just for the ride back. I'm like, hey, can you toss me one of those so I can smoke those before we, get going? Because it's been a long trip and I didn't smoke or do anything because I was worried about you. So this is my time to wind down now that you're coming back. She's like, oh, was that those white things that were on the side? I think I threw those out. I was like, when you had the window rolled down, you needed some. She's like, yeah. I was like, still okay. So yeah, long story short, first time users, be careful. Depends where you go, where you're using it, what you're doing. It's fun, and sometimes it's more so terrifying, or more so a chore, or more so just fun to watch. It was scary, terrifying, annoying, all in the same breath back then. But as I look back now, it was one of the funniest things that's ever happened. So yeah, that's my story. I'll tell it again. I might do it twice. There might be more. There's plenty more, but that's the funniest to me. More to come.